Let's now talk about the war in Ukraine. It's been a week since Russia's revenge for Ukraine's Kursk offensive began. And in less than 7 days, Russia seems to have reclaimed several villages, threatening Ukraine's ability to hold on to Russian territory. A fierce aerial war is taking place there. Russia and Ukraine are engaged in air assaults, targeting each other's military bases as well as energy infrastructure. Both sides, in fact, are trying their best to degrade the other's ability to sustain the war. Here's what's happening on the battlefield. Over the past few weeks, the front line had been somewhat stable in the Kursk region. Ukraine had surprised the world by launching a cross-border raid on Russian territory on the 6th of August. It was a big win for the war-battered country that had been struggling to make gains on the battlefield. But after the initial setback, Moscow sent in more troops to reinforce its defenses in the area. According to reports, as many as 30,000 troops were deployed by Russia. The Russians were able to largely stop the Ukrainian advance. Last week, Moscow started a concerted counterattack. Satellite images and pictures from the battlefield show that the Russian troops have regained some territory. On Monday, in fact, the Russian authorities ordered evacuation of civilians from 2 districts in the area, suggesting plans for a counter-assault there. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces have been on the move. In recent days, Ukrainian forces have pushed through another section of the border. Could Ukraine be trying to hamper the Russian counteroffensive by opening a whole new front? It's too soon to answer that. It's unclear whether Ukrainian troops have held on to any territory in the Russian region, in fact. Russia, remember, has been pressing ahead with its air campaign against Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The latest attack took place on Tuesday itself, where power plants in the northeastern Sumy region were targeted. Ukraine's energy network has been so badly damaged by months of attacks that experts have warned that power cuts will be unavoidable this winter. A dark winter ahead. And what's more, Russia has ramped up its air attacks on urban centers. Cities like Kiev, Kharkiv, Poltava have been targeted in air assaults. They have hit apartment buildings and a military academy. Outgunned and outnumbered on the battlefield, the Ukrainian authorities have argued for months that one way to unsettle the Russian military operations is to conduct airstrikes on military bases deep inside Russia from where attacks are launched or prepared. And as a result, Ukraine has hit oil refineries, power plants, airfields, military factories, all in an attempt to disrupt the logistics of the Russian military. Some attacks have also targeted urban centers, such as the Moscow area. So far, the Ukrainian forces have used homemade weapons, mostly drones, to conduct aerial attacks deep inside Russia. Ukraine has been, for that matter, urging its allies to allow them to use Western missiles to target Russia. We've been telling you about this. Last week, US President Joe Biden and the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer discussed the possibility of expanding Ukraine's long-range strike capabilities. But no policy changes were announced after the meeting. And given the way things stand, the current situation, Ukraine may need these capabilities sooner than its allies can actually make a decision. Time is running out. One thing is for sure, the Ukrainian troops are on the back foot in the eastern part of their own country, and that's a major setback for Ukraine. You see, one goal of Ukraine's cross-border assault into Kursk was to force Russia to divert troops from the front line in Ukraine. The Ukrainian generals hoped to have used this opportunity to reinforce Ukraine's border region and relieve pressure on Kiev's forces. But quite the opposite happened. So far, Russia has withdrawn only a limited number of experienced units from the Ukrainian battlefield. Instead, Russia has kept the bulk of its forces in Ukraine, where they are pressing ahead with assaults, especially in the eastern Donetsk region, which Moscow already partly controls. And let's not forget the fierce battle in the crucial town called Pokrovsk. It's a strategically important city in eastern Ukraine. Despite Ukraine's own offensive into Russia, Russian forces have been steadily closing in on Pokrovsk. In fact, Russian forces are now about 5 miles from Pokrovsk. And with the fighting getting more intense, water and electricity supplies have been cut off in Pokrovsk. The local authorities have urged residents to evacuate immediately. The city's population has already dwindled to 16,000 from about 62,000 in August. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.